So we already saw how the auto tariffs are impacting the major automaker stocks, but how much of a hit are analysts really expecting to see? Well, listen to this. Bernstein forecasts Ford and GM could see a 30% hit to operating profits, even if the companies manage to raise prices and move around their supply chains. And speaking of those companies that service cars, what about those stocks? So we are seeing wild swings. AutoNation, for example, Penske. That hit a one-year low at the beginning of the trading session. We've got Penske still down about 3.25%. CarMax is actually up about 2.6%. O'Reilly, AutoZone, those are the auto parts makers. Despite the volatility in the entire sector, our next guest says, don't throw out anything auto-related just yet in your portfolio. Some could see huge gains. Joining us now in a Fox Business exclusive, the Gabelli Funds portfolio manager, Brian Sponheimer. Brian, okay, so don't just trash everything because everybody's concerned about these tariffs?
No, look, and thank you, Liz, for having me on. We have a 100-year history within the auto industry of resiliency. And if you think about the dealers, specifically AutoNation and Penske on the new vehicle side, typically we'll sell about 16 million units a year. If there is some sort of hit because pricing action, it dictates that the average price of a vehicle is going to go up a few $1,000s. These dealers still have a massive amount of their profit, over 50%, that comes from parts and service. And given the complexity and how much that has increased within new vehicles over the course of the past decade, that's really the profit driver for these stocks. And so you look at an AutoNation based in Fort Lauderdale, the second largest dealership group in the country, or a Penske based in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, that does a lot of great work on the luxury side. Yes, there will be a top line impact as these tariffs disrupt the new vehicle market. But overall, the resiliency of these businesses and the tremendous amount of cash flow that they throw off definitely means don't throw them out.
Cash flow is king. Is that what I'm hearing you say? That if investors look at the balance sheets and you see what's the cash flow, and that kind of brings me to the auto parts guys, which you've just referenced. You know, the United States makes auto parts here. In fact, third behind China and Germany as the biggest manufacturers and exporters of auto parts. But over at Morgan Stanley, Adam Jonas, their auto analyst, said that tariffs could actually lead to what he called the Cubanization of cars, where the car parts become a scarcity. We've all seen pictures of those old cars rumbling around on the streets of Cuba where they're just trying to put them together with spit and sealing wax because there are no car parts. Who gets to really be the number one beneficiary?
So just to put some numbers behind what Adam was talking about, and I don't think we need to look like Cuba, there's about 290 million cars on the road in the United States with an average age that's already 12.7 years. And so whether we see a 1-year hit or a 2-year hit to auto sales that go from 16 million to 14 million or 13 million, that's going to really have no dent in that population. So we look to the auto parts retailers like an AutoZone or an O'Reilly, where for the past 50 years, these companies have had a tremendous ability to pass on price and really do very well in an inflationary environment. So if we are seeing prices rise on imported parts, their ability to pass those along to the consumer, particularly for hard parts, parts that are needed for failure when your vehicle is out of service and you need to go to work, consumers are willing to accept those prices increases, and you see that with some of the price reactions today.
Brian, who's going to be in the biggest trouble? Is it the BMWs and the Mercedes of the world? These are foreign automakers, luxury, so the price point is certainly higher, and people are wondering how much more expensive a Mercedes is going to be if they wanted to get maybe just an entry point Mercedes.
A little bit of a double-edged sword with the German luxury manufacturers. Now, I think it's important to remember that Mercedes-Benz manufactures a lot of and assembles a lot of their SUVs in Alabama and BMW in Spartanburg, South Carolina. So a lot of their landed sales are already here. They tend to import more of the sedans. I think just on a comparative basis, talking about the Japanese auto manufacturers and in particularly the Koreans, where Hyundai and Kia import more than 60% of the vehicles that they sell, they're going to be particularly challenged. And we'll see what happens with the domestics and whether they decide to just to go up market and really just focus entirely high-end SUVs and light trucks.
Well, let me just say, domestically, Tesla and Rivian. We know Rivian makes everything here in the United States. Tesla, a greater part than Ford and GM and Stellantis, is manufactured here in the United States. So would those two names be the ones that might escape maybe a hit to the stock?
Yeah, statutorily, Tesla makes 100% of their vehicles here. It's not 100% of the content in the car. So we'll have to see what the rules are as it relates to the components and whether there's any additional impact there. But Tesla would be a net beneficiary of greater walls around the U.S. as it relates to tariffs. There's another discussion to be had, maybe at another point, about electrification and adoption there. But the same thing holds true for Rivian.
I mean, Rivian's up 8.8%. That should tell people something.
Yeah, I think you're seeing it in the reactions of both stocks that the companies that are in comparatively better positions in the marketplace are thought to be the domestic electrics. And then looking at Ford today, down just 3% versus GM down 7%, you're seeing it there as well.
Brian? It's an interesting time that guys like you have to live in as we watch all of these developments, but we'll watch it play out, and we hope our viewers stick with us because it really is a moving target. Thank you so much for joining us.
Liz, thank you very much.